Hey guys, it's your girl Me-Anie, and I was just catching up on some videos on YouTube. Honestly, because of the new layout with YouTube, I haven't really been watching a lot of videos that much. It's not the same layout where it gives you like the your subscriptions and the uploads. It's just they're like doing way too much for me on YouTube. So it's been a while since I sat down and watched people like Jalicia, Miss Island Spice, people that I love to watch and get that homey feel. It's just like not the same, and I don't like that. Change is good, but I don't like this right now. Anyhow, I was watching, we all know her as, I think it's J. Rennie C. She used to have these thick, gorgeous locks, and she has like this really thick Trinidadian accent. And her new name, because she has a new channel, she doesn't have her locks anymore, is trinibkbabe. I think that's trinibkbabe. So I was watching her latest video, and it was entitled Let's Chat. And the whole premise of this video was basically her transition moving from Trinidad to Brooklyn. And I was like, okay, that, it kind of hit home because me myself, I grew up in Barbados. I said, you know what, let me do a response to this because it kind of hit home, and I wanted to share my experience and the things that I went through with the transition. For me, I grew up, I don't know how many videos I start like this, but if you're willing to listen, listen. I grew up in Barbados until I was about 12 years old. I lived there with my grandmom, my granddad, two of my sisters. I would be the third, and then my cousins, my two boy cousins. So it was my grandma, my granddad, and 5 of us growing up in the house, and it was a very homey feel. Like, we ate breakfast together. We had like all our meals we would eat together, sit down at the table, eat together, and stuff like that. My mom, I think maybe when I was about 4, came to the U.S. She was in Venezuela at first, but then she transitioned over to Philadelphia. And, I lived in Barbados up until the time I was 12. At that time, I graduated from West Darris, which is, it's like a primary school. And from there, I would have went into secondary school and then did that for maybe like another 5 years and finished school by the time I was like 16, 18, around there. So it's just a little bit different when you come to the States because in Barbados, like, you honestly, the workload is a lot more. You get a lot more work. Especially like the math and stuff like that, is intense. So anyone coming from Barbados to the United States, like, sometimes you're already up on the math. It might be like a few things that's a little bit different, but you're already up on the math and you're already up on the math, the comprehension and stuff like that. So I was good to go as far as, getting in and not having a problem and all that stuff. Now, the weather was different, of course, for me. As soon as I got there in 95, we had the blizzard of 96. Anyone that was around for the blizzard of 96 knows exactly like what I'm talking about, how crazy it was back then. For me, that being my first like seeing snow at all, and so much of it was crazy. People jumping out of windows if they live on the second floor. Schools were closed. You couldn't drive down the street. If you drove at all, you were getting ticketed. You were getting fines. Like, all types of crazy stuff. Like, so much snow. I just remember that I liked it a little bit, but then I hated it a whole lot, because why would your toes get so freaking cold and numb even if you have on like 2-3 pairs of socks? Like, why? It doesn't make any sense at all, and I hated that so much. But, I did like, going outside playing in the snow, not having to go to school because of snow. Like, I loved it. Now, back to the school part. It was easy for me to transition, but at the same time, I kind of had difficulties because I was like a no-nonsense type of person. In school back home, I didn't get in any kind of trouble. But once I got here, like, I got in trouble a lot. My mom, she didn't even come to the school because she was like, if I gotta come to school for you, I'm gonna beat your ass in front of the children. And you already know you cannot be beating your kids in the U.S. like that. It's not the same as back home, because back home, the people at school, the headmaster could beat your ass, the teacher could beat your ass. your friend on the street mother could beat your ass, but up here is much different. Like, you can't touch nobody chill, nobody chill can't touch somebody else. It's just a whole lot of shit, right? So I got into trouble periodically from 6th grade all the way up to 8th. The way it works, once you're living in a certain area, you have certain schools that you can go to. You have to stay like within that area. So the area that I was in didn't allow me to go to the school with my other 2 cousins, which my mom really wanted at that time, because she wanted us to, you know, be together, kind of have somebody to be there around, just because it was a new environment, new people, everything for us. So she, you know, we used to use my cousin's address and stuff like that so we can go to school. No, I messed it up for myself because I got in one too many fights, and eventually my real address slipped out. Ended up getting kicked out of the school. Had to go to my own school, the school within my area and shit like that. So it was like, I'm not a bad child, but it just came down to the point where, okay, me having my accent, I hated with a passion having to repeat myself. I hated it because I feel as though I'm speaking English, so why can you not understand me? Why are you not making the effort to understand what I'm saying? Like, why the hell do I have to keep repeating myself? So for me, that was the reason behind, you know, me switching over, and gradually, it took me maybe about a good 3 years of, you know, perfecting this slang, Ebonics and all that shit. Like, once you start speaking Ebonics, like, your English becomes worse. Like what is you doing? that is not proper English. I'm sorry. Like, girl, where you at? Like, that's not proper English. But those are things you do, not really to fit in, but for people to kind of understand you. And it's just a big hassle. Like, you already got all these other obstacles in your way, and on top of it, you're speaking differently, which creates a barrier. And anytime somebody didn't understand me and I had to repeat myself, I was ready to box them down. Like, I'm punching your blasted throat. That's how I feel, for real. So I know at one point I got into altercation with a guy at school, and I ended up shoving him in the locker and closing it and going back to class. Shoving the little boy in the locker, closing it, going back to class. Another one where I got into an argument, me and this other girl, like, she was kind of like a bully. I think remember her name was Cassia. It was Cassia, and then her best friend, but I cannot remember her best friend's name. We got into something. I think it all tied in together, because I can't really remember now. This was like years ago. And then the actual thing that got me removed from this school, it was like a fight that was kind of like instigated. I was in my class and another girl was in her class, and we had like a couple people going back and forth from class to class saying, well, she said she gonna do this, she said she gonna do that. So I was like, all right, well, you know what, when we go to school at 3 o'clock, we could go in the, you know, the parking lot, and we can scrap, we can do what we gotta do, whatever. So sure enough, we end up, I don't even think we waited that long. We ended up fighting in gym class. And I beat the shit out of this girl, called and almost rip off she face. So because in that fight, the way I was fighting caused more physical and apparent damage, you know, like you could see the war bruises. I end up getting in trouble and getting kicked out of school. So I promise you, I'm not a bad child. I'm not a bad person. It was just things that you had to do to let people know that you're not taking shit. And that's how I was when I was younger. Like, I'm not playing these games. I'm not here to be playing with y'all. You're going to try to understand what I'm saying. If not, okay, whatever. I'm done. You know? So, like, that was part of the reason that I, you know, kind of lost my, not really lost, but kind of camouflaged my accent. And even in this video, I'm sure you guys can hear me going in and out of my accent. It becomes a comfort zone. For me, when I go home to Barbados now, or when I'm speaking to someone that, you know, is from an island, that's when my accent will come out. But then as soon as I'm back in an Americanized area or zone, like, it switches back over. Sometimes it happens without me even knowing it. And I realized that a few years ago when I was back home. As soon as I go back home and I hear people like sounding like them in the fish market and stuff, like, my accent come out. And then like if I'm downtown or something and then I hear something that's Americanized, like, it switches back and forth without me even know it. So it became more of like subconscious, where I don't even realize that I'm switching back and forth. Now, one way that you can tell that, you know, one way you will hear my accent if I'm speaking American, if I'm speaking Americanized, is if I am pissing mad. Somebody pissed me off, call them when the cuss words I can come out to my mouth. You can call you a mother C, where I saw this, all this other stuff. Like, the cuss words that will come out of my mouth will prove to you that I am a Bajan child. More or less. So one thing that I will say, I really like the fact that listening to, you know, Rihanna speak over the years, I was very impressed that even though she was around all these people in the industry and so on and so forth, she, you know, her accent was still there. Like, I was very, very impressed, and it just was wow, like, you know, like wow to me. I'm sure by now she kind of picked up some slang along the way, but whenever she spoke in, you know, public forums that I heard her voice, it was like, damn, you could really tell that this girl is Bajan. And it wasn't like, you know, a heavy dialect where it wasn't, where she wasn't understood or sounded uneducated. Because you have, no matter where you go, you will have your people that are speaking proper English. You have your people that are speaking proper English, but they have Ebonics. And you will have people that are just straight up ghetto. And I hate using that word, but, you know, like gully, I mean gut, like just grunge, you know what I'm saying? I can understand what she's saying when some people, you know, they go away for 2-3 months on a vacation and they come back like speaking straight up slang, as we call it. Like, they come back like, yo, son, what's up? What's good? Dude, you were away for all but 31 days. What are you doing? You know, like, it's just something for them to go back home with and make it seem like, yeah, man, I was out, you know, I was out of the country, whatever. Like, it's all a facade, you know. But when you make that transition, it's some things that you need to do to make it easier for yourself. And that was my situation. So you definitely hear my accent from time to time, and then at other times you will hear me speaking like this. So it's just a blend. That was just my experience. It got much easier